Welcome to the Weekly Gaming Blast, the podcast that brings you the latest in gaming news unhinged. I'm AkibanaZero.
And I'm Rue the Gamer. Hello.
This week we have a lot of stuff to talk about, but the big buzz that's been going on around this week has been loot boxes. Loot boxes everywhere. But we also had an amazing dump of announcement, a big announcement done by for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, and both of these discussions are going to be in our big section towards the end of the show, so we will have a timestamp for you for that if you want to go directly there in the description on YouTube. How's it going, Rue?
It's not too bad, thank you very much. Not too bad at all. Some big gaming things upcoming, which is nice.
Gaming things, yes. All the good gaming things.
And some very good game releases as well coming up as well. And also game releases that have just passed as well that are gaining quite a lot of traction as too. So it's a good time. It's a good time to be a gamer at this time of year. It really is.
October's big for Nintendo right now. We've got Mario on the horizon. We've got Fire Emblem Warriors as well. It's going to be huge for Switch owners.
And it's set to get better, but more on that later.
Yeah, obviously it's getting better and better. So yeah, awesome. So what have you been playing this week?
I can finally talk about what I've been playing. I've been playing Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yay!
Disclosure: I got I because I write for Nintendo Scene, I got a copy from Nintendo. So I've been playing that, and I can finally talk about it to an extent, and it's very good. Very, very, very good. The only issue I found so far is breaking out of the Hyrule Warriors mindset. In Fire Emblem Warriors, you can't power through. In Hyrule Warriors, you could power through, regardless of what character you were playing as. You could just keep mashing that button and you'd eventually get through. You cannot do that in Fire Emblem Warriors at all. You have to be strategic, otherwise you will fail the mission.
That's actually a good thing for a person who is not really into the Warriors series, like myself, because I've always viewed these games as, being, super button mashy. It's like, what's the point? I could just mash through armies like that, and what's the point of playing a game? But that seems like really positive. I might actually really get into a game like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there are elements of button mashing. It is still a Warriors game, but the majority of the gameplay, you have to be strategic. So if you have multiple characters you've got on the field at any one time, and you have to direct those characters, you have to tell them where to go, and then you have to pay attention to where they're going, because if you send them to the wrong place, they'll get slain. Because one thing this game has that Hyrule Warriors didn't have is it has the weapon triangle. So certain weapons are good against other weapons and vice versa. So because of that, if you send a swordsman to deal with lances, they're not going to do very well. But if you send a swordsman to deal with axes, they will pretty much demolish the entire segment of the opposition's army. So you have to think about where you're sending your characters and where you're directing the character you're playing at the moment as well.
So they're taking a bit of that Fire Emblem strategy game sort of element, and they're adding it into this game. So that seems a bit of a rock, paper, scissors situation as well.
It most definitely is. Because obviously you need to take into account as well that winged units are weak against archers. So if you're sending them in a direction that takes them through archers, they're going to take some damage going through that segment. So you have to be careful about... You basically have to pay attention to the whole explorable part of the battlefield as you're playing. You've got to pay attention to where you're going and what you're doing. And I failed missions multiple times just because I wasn't doing that.
Wow. Very, very interesting stuff. I mean, that definitely intrigues me, because I'm not really, like I said, I'm not into Warriors games, and because I just viewed them as these like hack and slashy type of games, but that really piques my interest for sure.
And also there's some wicked combos you can do.
Ooh.
If you utilize the team up mechanic as well, you can extend your combos and do some horrible amounts of damage. It's fantastic.
I like combos.
And also it's very high on spectacle as well, so
cool. Well, spectacle is what you would expect from a game like this. Yeah.
And to throw out another thing, I've been playing this,
Yeah,
which I can talk about. I can talk about this because this is out in, not our public, but general public can play this. And Unist is amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
That's Under Night in Birth, exit latest, right?
Yes.
That's the title.
Yes,
or short, Unist, basically.
That's the full title. Yes. And yeah, I've been playing. I streamed it on Thursday, and I'll be streaming it again this Thursday. It's really good. It's really fun. And also very easy to get into for a beginner to fighting games, but it has depth there if you want to learn it. It's very good game.
It does look a bit complex on the surface, though. I mean, I did buy it on a huge sale, not latest, but the previous version on Steam. And on the surface, like you look at the UI and it feels extremely complicated, but but apparently it's actually quite easy to get into.
Yeah, the combat itself is very. I mean, it doesn't have an auto combo, which places it as a little bit less accessible than, say, Persona 4 Arena, but it's still very easy to make combos regardless of your skill level. It's just such a good game. Such a good game.
I did find that I could play Yuzuriha quite okay. Like I could get some damage in, even though I wasn't like really familiar with the combo system. So okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you picked up a quite complicated character. To be fair, Yuzuriha is not an easy character to use by any stretch of the imagination. So for you to have picked up quite a complicated character and still been able to do damage, that's definitely respectable. It's quite good.
So
and then again, I use a quite complicated character.
You have the Japanese version there, right?
I do. Yes, this is the Japanese version.
So, but like, are all the menus in English or just Japanese?
Partially. I'm having to use a lot of process of elimination to work out where I'm going.
I see. Well, it's a fighting game, so once you know where to go, once you know where online play is, you're fine.
Yeah, online play and survival mode. Those are the only two things I need. Oh, and training, obviously. But yeah, it's a very good game. I would thoroughly recommend it, and it comes out in Europe soon.
Oh, towards the end of the month, from what I understand. Quarter Q4 is what they're saying. 2017. We are approaching. We're actually in Q4 now, I think.
Yeah, we are in Q4 now. So anytime now.
Any moment now, please.
Because I know that P-Cube, which are the ones localizing it, they did have an English version of Unist at RTX this weekend. So it must be incoming.
It should be, yeah. I guess they're just ironing out the rest of the launch stuff, and I guess November might be a safe bet.
Which is good, because I've got no games in November, so it'll be good for it to come out. But you
already have it.
That's true. I won't be getting it now until it goes cheaper, European. But there'll be an increase in player base, which is always good for a fighting game. But what about you? How are you? You're back in the UK. I see.
Yeah, I'm back in the UK. The setup is the nice one, the nice microphones and the nice cameras. Well, the camera I had with me. Yeah, I'm great. I'm back in the UK. Immediately jumping into like the deep end with work again. Working on my dissertation, gotta get it out by November and stuff, but yeah, I don't want to talk about work. I want to talk about games. What have I been playing? Well, yesterday we streamed with a couple of friends the latest Evil Within 2, that you apparently are still not impressed by at all.
No.
But I do have to say, like the reviews are giving it about a like 8-ish. They're putting it around there in a bit of the higher end, but overall I think it's an okay game. It's fun. It's nothing to write home about as in like, oh my god, it's super innovative and all that. No, I felt that the game was very tense. Like the tension is really high when you're being chased, and they do the whole ammo management and stuff very well so far. I mean, it felt like we really had to ration out our stuff, even though we were quite terrible at it.
I must admit, I'm just not, as you know, I have a massive problem with the first game.
Yeah, that I'm aware of.
So unless they essentially trashed everything they did before and done something completely new, I'm probably not going to like the sequel either.
We're gonna have to check out the VOD from Charlie's stream.
I will indeed. Yes, I couldn't see it like yesterday because I was in London, but I will. I will definitely watch that, and I'll let you know.
Okay. And I also started playing. I don't know if I'm gonna continue playing this game. I started playing my very first battle royale game, Fortnite battle royale mode, basically.
Ooh, okay.
And yeah, and that is also going to lead into a new series of videos that I'm going to start doing on my channel, where I basically fail at games and I celebrate that fact. But yeah, I don't know if this is a style of game for me, but yeah, it was an interesting concept because you're basically tossed into a zone with 100 other players, 99 other players, and you have to just scavenge for stuff, and once you die, that's it. You're done. You move on to the next game. Unless you want to spectate, I don't know. But yeah, I didn't want to spectate, I just wanted to play. Which kind of made it frustrating for me a little bit, because I'm kind of used to, like, when I'm playing my shooter type of games, I'm used to respawning, I'm used to, like, continuing on until the game finishes. So I don't know, maybe I just need to get the hang of it.
I must admit, it does intrigue me rather, as a game concept, but I honestly don't think I would get much out of it, so that's why I haven't given it a try.
I think maybe 100 players might be too much, or maybe like it's so easy to die. But I guess that kind of adds to that's the whole concept, is that it needs to be tense, because that's how I felt. I felt like I was constantly gonna be jumped at any moment. Right, but overall it's an interesting game type, I guess, if you want to call it that, a game genre, if you want to call it that. And yeah, I guess I'll give it a go a few times, but I'm not really sure if I'm gonna carry on with it. Might just not be my thing as an old hat of gaming. So anywho, we're gonna jump in immediately into our controversial section, because it's not the gaming industry if there's no controversy. But let's start with something that is actually, I think, a little bit funny rather than controversial. The Kerbal Space Program has been review bombed recently on Steam. Although that, I don't know how much good that's going to do, because Steam has started taking action against this with certain ways. But anyway, here's how it all played out. Okay, so apparently in the Chinese version of the game, on the side of one of the ships or something like that, I'm not completely sure because I've never played this game, it says specifically, you know, what? Let me find that. Oh my god, I lost it. There we go. It says this, without reaching moon, you're not a good male. I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean, but apparently Chinese gamers found that a bit sexist, so they complained. And of course the company decided, okay, we're going to do something about it. Let's make it a little more gender neutral. But that basically pissed off other gamers from other countries. And so they started review bombing the hell out of Kerbal Space Program. Ah, guys, really?
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with review bombing anyway. I don't see how that really serves any purpose apart from to make the entire community look petulant. I don't understand the thinking behind it. It's not going to change anything. The developers decided that they wanted to not go with a sexist remark, changed it within the game, and now people are unhappy about that. Which, one, Jesus, pull your heads out of your ass and realize what generation you're living in, and what society you're living in. And two, review bombing, it's not going to do anything.
No, it really isn't going to do anything. It basically, well, let's say that in the end you end up with a game having a terrible score on Steam. That basically goes, it's bad for you as a community. You want more people to play the game. You want more people in your game environment. Because that's how a game thrives, by having more people playing it. But if you're just going to get people to stop going into your game this way, then you're just basically, you know, shooting yourself in the foot. And I think it's completely useless, like you said, because it just basically gives them a very bad image. It shows that people just don't tolerate, like, small changes like that.
And not to mention small and, I would argue, correct changes.
It is a correct change. Yeah. I mean, what the hell? Like, even if you were to try and make that into proper English, like you're not a real man if you unless you reach the moon, that's not something you wanna teach anybody in this time and age.
Yeah, most definitely. Um, I mean, one question I will ask is it a kind of smaller indie developer?
I think it is an indie developer. I like I said, I've never played Kerbal Space Program, so I'm not really familiar with who's making it or why they're making it. But it is a big game because it's basically about creating rockets and trying to send them to space, which is interesting. It's science-y. It's kind of educational as well.
Mm. I mean, the problem with that is if it is an indie developer, we, I mean, not you and I, but we as a community, we don't want to be stifling indie developers because indie developers are potentially the future big developers.
And we want
I mean,
them to
if
have a positive outlook on the industry.
yeah, precisely, we want them to continue making games because if you think so many great games were made by indie developers, and then these indie developers were snapped up by the big guys, and then they're making big games that everyone love as well. It's, I mean, all you need to do is look at the success that was PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. That came out of nowhere, and it's been a phenomenal success. And also Cuphead, like recently passed 1 million sales, and that was made by an indie developer.
Which is amazing.
Who it's so to stifle indie developers like this by review bombing them and just being general like asshats about it. What purpose does it serve? All you're doing is potentially stemming the future of the industry.
And that's the message here, folks. Don't be douchey to your indie developers. Leave them alone. Indie developer lives matter. That's how it goes. And we need
We
them.
should
We need them in our industry.
indie devs matter. We should have that as a hashtag.
Indie devs matter. There you go. Good. I think that's,
Um,
yeah, that's solid.
However, on the flip side of that, something that people need to start speaking about, Warner Brothers games. I think if I was to look back over the last few weeks, I've mentioned Warner Brothers games in a negative light about every week for the past 4 weeks.
I think so as well. It should be a highlight reel at this point.
A £33 season pass. Are you high? WB Games.
For Shadow of War, by the way.
Yes, for Shadow of War. Sorry, I should have specified. But, well, not that I need to. I mean, WB seem to be making every mistake possible with Shadow of War. £33 season pass. I have had full games that have more content for less than £33.
It's a ridiculous price. That's like 33 quid. That's nearly just to give people some context. In England, a AAA title is 45 quid. It's 45 pounds, and that's
Yeah.
33 pounds for a season pass. Is ridiculous. Absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Which means, obviously, in America, that'll be a bit higher. So that'll be probably around $40.
Something like that, I think. Yeah, something
$40 for a season pass.
as
Like,
if the loot boxes conundrum hasn't been bad enough already for them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the game itself in the UK is 50. So, a good 2/3 again for a season pass. Are they insane?
And I mean, what is the
Um,
like? You see, that's the thing is like how do you justify this price? And it was the same problem that we had with Destiny 1 back in the day because
hmm,
the season pass, it wasn't as expensive, but still like it was on a reasonable season pass level, and it was still like it felt like the content was lacking. So that is the big problem with season pass, how you justify these prices.
well, the thing is, I looked through the Shadow of War season pass list, and I read it, and I was just like, well, that all sounds okay. Not for the price it is, but that all sounds okay in terms of future planned DLC. But the thing is, season passes are either brilliant or awful. There's no grey area in the middle. They're either fantastic, really well thought out, expansive, brilliant, um, brilliant sets of content, or they are terrible and overpriced. There's no grey area with season passes, and unfortunately, we would miss the boat on stopping season passes from happening anymore.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a DLC in
Um,
general. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, I'm all for expanding games, okay, and stuff. I'm fine with that. The thing about season passes, though, is that a lot of times developers don't lay out to you what is that you're gonna get. And I mean, I think some games like Final Fantasy 15 did this relatively well. Bethesda does this okay-ish as well. And usually people expect a lot from Bethesda anyway, and Bethesda usually delivers in that regard. But there's a lot of games out there that really don't lay it out to you properly. Again, referring to Destiny 1, and we're back here in the same situation with Destiny 2. So yeah, we're still waiting to see what we should expect from those expansions. But yeah, the moral of the story here is that, you know, if you're going to make a season pass, make it reasonable at the very least. Unless you lay out that you've got like this huge plan ahead of you that we need to know about. Right, so let's just dive right into the quick news because we've got a lot to talk about today. It's been a big week. So let's start off. This is very negative, actually, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I had high hopes for this game. Lawbreakers, according to Review Tech USA, can actually now be considered a failure. Because the game, even though it got a lot of positive feedback from big names in like on the YouTube scene, including Frothy Omen, who's probably the best Titanfall player ever. The game has actually only ever maxed out at about 3,000 concurrent players online, and now they have kind of ended up at the double digits with some occasionally, you know, when you go online, you would probably only find another 10 players playing at the same time. It's really, really sad.
That is, unfortunately, I mean, we're in an era now when only a few games have the monopoly.
Yes.
In terms of online players. So it would unfortunately mean that some games that are great will fall by the wayside. I mean, you see it all the time in the fighting games community. Certain games will just have no concurrent players.
Yes.
And then certain games will have constant player base. You see it all the time with all games. And what with the amount of sort of like online massively multiplayer games that are currently popular, there just wouldn't be a space for a game like Lawbreakers, sadly.
That is true. And the comparisons to Overwatch really didn't favor it at all, which was, in my opinion, the same thing that kind of doomed Battleborn as well. And to say, I'm just going to come out and say this, Battleborn and Lawbreakers are almost nothing like Overwatch. I mean, Overwatch is its own beast. And there's only one game I know of that you could directly compare it to, and that is Paladins. Well, Paladins compared to Overwatch, they're the same game. But essentially, Lawbreakers is like a really high skill cap, zero gravity, in the air kind of shooter, which seemed really interesting when I played the beta. It was really fun. But there's just nobody playing it. Nobody wants to play it. Everybody wants to be where all the big names are, and that's the unfortunate truth that we have to deal with.
The problem is here, though, who said that it was like Overwatch? Because if it was the media, they're doing their reductive thing that they normally do, where they just baseline compare things to everything, which is why journalistic integrity is constantly brought up with the community. Or if it was the people who said that, then that is a much bigger issue and quite hard to overturn.
I would say that it's a little bit the mindset of people, because once they hear a shooter that has heroes with their own abilities, they immediately go like, oh,
yeah.
So it's Overwatch. And that's unfortunately a short-sighted view on things. So perhaps maybe Lawbreakers didn't need to, like, you know, focus so much on the fact that like the heroes that have their own abilities, and maybe just focus more on the aspect of it being a high skill cap type of game.
Yeah. It's a shame, though. It is a massive shame. Massive
shame indeed. Well, speaking of focus, you want to tell us what Phil Spencer is focusing on these days?
Oh, Phil Spencer, you insane person. He's recently said that hardware sales aren't the focus, and he then went on to bash exclusive DLC. You're in control of the Xbox. How could hardware sales not be a focus?
It's obviously a focus. And how can you
It
bash
must
DLC,
be.
exclusive DLC when you do this as a practice as well?
Precisely. Like, it reeks of hypocrisy. Um, like, all of it. Everything he said just reeks of hypocrisy. He would not be saying this if Xbox were in the lead again, like they were last generation.
That is true. And I do have to say, like, bashing exclusive DLC might be a bit hypocritical on my part as well, because I'm a Destiny player, and the best place to play Destiny right now when it comes to content is PlayStation because of some exclusive deals, especially in Destiny 1. I mean, my favorite gun in Destiny 1 was a PlayStation exclusive. But the thing is, it hurts the industry. I think it hurts gamers above all else. Like, exclusive DLC is a terrible practice. And I agree with Phil on this. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you are who you are. Well, you can't really talk about that. You can't really say that, it's bad when you actually do it. You got to practice what you preach, especially in the position that you're in right now.
Yeah, agreed.
And moving on, but here's a bit of positive news, especially for, I'm super excited for this. The Titanfall 2 dev, Respawn, and by the way, Titanfall 2 is an amazing game that is really underappreciated and underrated, and has amazing business practice as well. They're working on a VR project, which is apparently not Titanfall related, which would probably be super awesome. But still, Respawn is an amazing developer. They make great stuff. So them doing something for VR is going to be crazy good. I could just see it happening.
The only issue I have with this, because in all fairness, I know that Titanfall 2 is an amazing game. It's not for me, but I know it's an amazing game. Is VR.
It is.
I'm still not sold on VR.
Maybe Respawn can sell you on it, though.
Well, maybe. We'll see. We'll see what they come up with, because that may end up being, it may end up being the thing that pushes me to VR. Maybe. Who knows? But speaking of things being in the works, Ed Boon, you beautiful man, you. Injustice 2 for Switch.
Maybe.
He said that it would be. He said that it would be fun. So, what is he? Is he planning it?
Are they planning
Injustice 2 on Switch?
I think that I would actually buy it if it came out on Switch. I think I would actually buy it just for the story. I don't really play NetherRealm fighting games because I find them pretty clunky, but I do like their story modes. They do them very, very well. It's DC Universe, and it's probably going to be the best DC movie I see this year. So aside from Wonder Woman,
yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
And also the thing you can never fault with the NRS games is that the polish is incredible. The level of polish.
Oh yeah, incredibly well polished. Lots of content, single player content, especially for people who don't want to go online. I mean, shoot, even if you wanted to go online, you can go with gear and just have a ton of fun. Because that's what the game does right now. Like you can buy a bunch of gear and just make a very overpowered character and just have a bunch of fun. You don't really even need to take it to the competitive level like some other people do.
Yeah, agreed.
And I kind of like that aspect of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I had much more fun on MKX doing the towers than I did online.
Yeah, and that was a really good piece of content as well. You got to unlock stuff. It was really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah,
NRS
agreed.
does single player fighting games very, very well. Now, if they could work on their animations, that would be even better. What?
Shame about everything else with NRS.
Dude, there's a video on YouTube that explains why NRS animations are bad. And like this, I will never remove this from my memory. There's Kitana in doing a crouch and light kick, and it looks like she's waving a chicken wing.
Oh god.
You can't unsee that. I never noticed how bad it actually looked until that video pointed it out to me. And I'm like, this is that's terrible. Why? They're martial artists. They need to show some
some moves.
We need to get like NRS and Capcom and just fuse them together or something like that. I don't know. Anywho, right now, let's moving on now. Let's talk a little bit about Bungie and Destiny 2, because Destiny 2 has been getting a little bit of some negative feedback from the community about its endgame. And I'm kind of on the fence about this. So first off, Bungie has said they're doing internal talks about how they can further improve the end game and how rewarding it is. Now, to give a little bit of context, the thing about Destiny 2 right now is that although it's still very fun, in my opinion, to play, and there's lots of stuff to do, it can feel very unrewarding because everything is very token based. So you get a bunch of tokens that you turn in for reputation, and then once you complete a part of, you upgrade your reputation, you get an engram, which leads to an item. And it can feel a little bit unrewarding because in Destiny 1 we're very used to getting a lot of drops. And you still get drops now. It just feels like when you're in the end game, the drops don't matter that much because they're blue and they're low quality, and you're not just getting enough of the big stuff, the exotics and the legendaries.
So what you're saying is that the end game of the game is less worth it than grinding in game.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That should not be the way.
That shouldn't be the way,
No.
but it's I mean, I guess it just needs a little bit of tuning, but at the same time I feel the community might be exaggerating ever so slightly. I mean, I'm not one of those people who have like shot up to light level 305, which is the max in a couple of weeks, like some people have. But if you are one of those people, I guess maybe you're just playing too fast. I don't know. But that still shouldn't be a thing. I mean, there are players like that who dedicate a lot of time to one particular game, so they need to be catered to as well.
Yeah, agreed.
But one argument that somebody made on Reddit was that we need to be a little bit careful about Bungie and how we request things, because Bungie tends to sometimes listen to us to a fault, which it can be a problem as well. And I have to admit that Bungie was really on the ball with Destiny 1 with listening to our feedback. Hopefully they are with Destiny 2, but really focus a little bit on the things that you want to do as well, guys, because sometimes we don't know what we want either.
No, never expect gamers to know what they want, because they will always give you a reaction as opposed to a carefully thought out, or almost always a reaction rather than an actually thought out response. Hence why the whole fiasco with Mass Effect 3 happened.
That's true. That is true.
Although speaking of fiascos, Fortnite, the game that you've been dipping your tentative toes into, Epic Games is suing a couple of the players of it for cheating at the game. It's quite an interesting suit actually, because they're not suing them for cheating per se. They are suing them for, and I will quote from the statement here, they are suing them for infringing Epic's copyrights by injecting unauthorized computer code into the copyright protected code. So what they're essentially suing them for is altering the game. Because Epic have been very, they've said from the beginning they're going to be very, very hard on cheaters. And this, my God, is a reaction. And also proves that they are right. They are going to be hard on cheaters, because the people were literally using aimbots to affect the game, which Epic have quite rightly said will not only harm the reputation of their business for being a well thought through fair developer, but will also ruin the gameplay for everybody else. So they're completely right. They're completely within their rights, but or seems that they're completely in their rights, but it's just a really unheard of thing for this to happen.
Well, it's not entirely unheard of, because Blizzard has also sued not just cheaters, but also cheat providers. And that's the thing about this lawsuit as well, is that these people didn't just cheat, they also pushed the cheats on other people. And the thing is that the cheat provider is selling this. And that is a big part that people need to pay attention to with this, is that okay, cheating is fine and you probably will just get banned for it, etc. They can't sue you for just cheating. But if you're pushing it as a product, and if it alters the code and it's in the EULA of the game that you're not allowed to do that, you're going to get sued. And that's not unprecedented. Blizzard has sued plenty plenty of companies that have started doing cheats in their games, and it never ended well for them. Not for Blizzard, for the others.
Well, as I say, good job, Epic, actually doing something that you say you're going to do. That is kind of unheard of for developers.
It is. It definitely is. And they should constantly push for this kind of thing, because I think cheating is a ridiculous practice, even though I was a cheater in the single-player days with the game genies and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're playing multiplayer. What is the purpose of playing it? Right.
Well, the thing is, if you're cheating in a single player, the only person you're cheating is yourself.
Exactly.
Because you're cheating yourself out of, you know, the experience of playing the game. If you're cheating to win in an online scenario, you're cheating somebody else, and that's a lot less acceptable for me. Like lag switching.
Oh yeah, well, lag switching. That's also a big problem in fighting games as well right now, especially Street Fighter V. But you know what's not having a problem right now is Evil Within 2. Even though you're not pretty happy about it, it's actually been reviewing quite decently, with an 80 on Metacritic and an 81 on OpenCritic. And I have to say, probably deserves it. I mean, it's like I said, it's not God's gift to the world, but it's pretty fun game with tension, with survival horror elements. I mean, it's okay.
Thing is, though, a lot of the I've heard from, obviously, from Twitter, so how much to trust that is something completely different. But I've heard that mechanically, Evil Within 2 is still absolute tripe. Which was my main issue with the game in the first place, that mechanically it was bloody awful. And if they haven't changed that, then I'm not going to like it. Because it's the mechanics I had the biggest issue with.
Like what mechanics, for instance? Maybe I can shed some light for you.
Instant kills every 30 bloody seconds. That's not a good mechanic. That's punishing the player for playing your game.
I didn't feel like we were getting one-shotted by stuff very rapidly. It felt like the one thing that I have to say that I found a bit inconsistent, but this might be a quirk of the genre. It might not be something that it might be something I'm just not familiar with, is that there are you get some enemies that you can sneak attack and they die on one sneak attack, but then we ran into this one other enemy that seemed pretty normal, and we're like, okay, let's sneak attack and one-shot her. We do it, and she's still alive. We blast her with 2 shotgun shots. She's still alive. And we're like, what the fuck is this? Is this a boss? We weren't sure what was going on. But
yeah, there's that inconsistency was in the first game as well. Because sometimes if you, and this was this was a big bugbear of mine, you could set corpses on fire to stop them getting back up again. Essentially to permanently kill them. And sometimes if you had 2 corpses together, they would both set on fire. Sometimes just one of them would. And that inconsistency, plus also the fact it was mechanically garbage and felt like a horrible experience to play, I just hated the Evil Within. And I can't see that they're going to have learnt enough lessons.
Well, that fire mechanic didn't exist, at least in the section that we played on stream. But there was a stomp mechanic where, like, if an enemy takes a lot of shots, but they're still alive and they're on the ground, you can go up to them and stomp them and they die. We didn't have any situations where, like, enemies were coming back were coming alive without us knowing.
I'm pretty sure that mechanic was in the first one as well.
But it was an okay game. I'm not gonna say that it was great. It wasn't bad either. But anyway, probably deserving of the 80. Who knows?
However, in terms of survival games that are probably quite good, Flame in the Flood, coming to Switch. Must admit, I don't know a great deal about the game, but there are some great and like highly praised games coming to Switch.
Yeah.
It's a very good time to be a Switch owner.
It's definitely a good time, especially if you also like indies. I mean, I'm just going to keep saying this. The Switch is an amazing indie device. And this Flame in the Flood game looks like it harkens a little bit to the what was that game again? Don't Starve. It kind of felt a little bit like that on the trailer. But basically what happens is like there's a huge flood like in this post-apocalyptic world, and you're kind of like floating with a raft that you can upgrade, and you can pick stuff up on and carry to other locations. And you also have a dog that follows you around. So you got quite a bit of stuff to do. It's very survival based. You have to, you have to monitor things like your hunger, your thirst, and other stuff like that, dehydration. And so, yeah, it looks pretty interesting, and I think that might be like a really cool game to have on the go.
Yeah, it does sound it. I mean, personally, I don't tend to like survival games like that, um, because it feels more like babysitting than an actual decent gameplay experience. Because it's just like, I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I need to go to sleep. It's just like, right, okay, just do whatever you have to do. But I don't like babysitting. But it's it just, as much as I don't necessarily like all of the games that are happening, it is very good that the Switch is being used in this way. So
Very good news, and it means the variety of games is there as well, which was always a big concern about Nintendo's
mm,
latest offering. Uh, Now it's on to something sad, and this is probably very sad for a lot of people. BioWare has lost Mike Laidlaw, the creative director of the Dragon Age series, who's moving on to other things.
I just I can't as I just can't, because he, like, I may not have got as much out of it as a lot of people did, but I still really liked Dragon Age Origins.
Such a good game series, even though the
Yeah,
second one wasn't that great.
I didn't play the second one because I heard it wasn't that great, but I've got the third one waiting in my queue to play, um, because I heard so many good things about it. Um, but it's just such a shame, and I can't help the skeptical mind of me just can't help but think, is this to do with EA?
BioWare is losing people a lot.
Yeah,
A lot of big
and
names.
it's yeah, and the thing is, Mike could have been really good for Anthem.
Oh yes. Yeah, and that's where my worry comes in, because I've been super hype for Anthem, and now I'm questioning like what's going on? What are we going to get in the end?
Yeah. I mean, we can't, as much as it looked nice, we can't judge what the game will be like from that trailer anyway, because that was very heavily scripted, that trailer.
Just like Destiny
Um,
1 was when they first announced that in E3 as well.
yeah,
And we got what we got in the beginning with Destiny 1.
mm, just Mike, seriously, like, I can assume you wouldn't listen to us, but if you do listen to us, like, good luck in the future. You have made some games that have made a lot of people really happy and given loads of people a lot of entertainment. So good luck what you do in the future, and come back soon with something that's going to blow EA out of the water. Come
Yes.
on, do it. You know you can. Just do it.
Please bust up some, like do a disruption of epic proportions, please.
Um, and now for something that actually, by the time this podcast comes out, would have already been confirmed,
Mm-hmm.
although we already know. Street Fighter V's final Season 2 DLC character will be announced more than likely today at the it's Southeast
Southeast
Asia.
Asia Majors.
There you go. I didn't know what the M stood for. I was just reading the acronym and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a word. Yeah, so it's being announced today. We know it's Zeku.
We know.
We
Yeah.
know it is. Um, but that will mark the end of Season 2.
Finally.
Well, obviously Capcom cuts the end of Season 2, like, technically. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do with him, because we, like, Season 3, so no, Season 3, Season 2 so far has been very good for characters, I think.
Season 2 has been great for characters. Some nice, interesting ideas that showing that at least Capcom does have some creativity left within them. Zeku is, just to give some context to some people who don't know who he is, he's Guy's master. Guy from
Which will be good. It'll be really good to have, because going back to what you were saying and like furthering that, season two's characters not only have been very interesting kind of ideas and very creative, they've all had subtly different mechanics. Like every single one of them, even Akuma, who was a returning character as opposed to a new character, which is what the rest of season two have been. Even Akuma had some very interesting new mechanics that hadn't been in the game previously. And then if you add to that Colleen's freezing ability and her strange kind of arcing projectile she had, Ed and his psycho power lasso, Manat and everything that she has, there's been some very interesting characters in season two. So if Zeku is a kind of stealth character, like maybe with kind of some instant kind of transmission sort of teleports, that would be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with him. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the case. He's not going to play like Guy, which would be very sad for people who want Guy in the game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree entirely. I'll just finish and season 3 start already.
We want to know, because Xkira is saying that apparently his data mining has revealed that all season 3 characters are going to be legacy.
Yeah, because wasn't there a heavy rumor about Eagle?
There was that heavy rumor about Eagle, but I'm praying for Cody. I don't know about you. I want Cody.
Yeah, I know you want... Well, you know who I want back. It's not going to happen. Not season 3 at the very least. It's not going to happen. But you know who I want back.
Do I?
Yang.
Oh, who?
Yang.
Ah, Yang. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Damn it. I'm so bad. Yeah.
My Street Fighter 3 / Street Fighter 4 boy. I want him back.
I'd love really Yang, and I'd love him to be strong. Maybe without Yoon, because he's the one who keeps Yang down. Oh well. We'll see. Hopefully, season 3 will be more legacy. I'm actually hoping that it's a mix of legacy and new characters. I mean, that's what I've always hoped that Capcom would do. Would give us old characters, would give us some new, not all new, all old, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right, so we've really, really overstretched our bounds here, so let's move on to our big discussions. And this week has been a huge week for a very controversial topic that hopefully we as a community can do something about by spreading discussion on this, and that is loot boxes. Loot boxes everywhere, because that's what the future is looking like. So for those who haven't really been following what's going on, here's what's been going on. Shadow of War and Battlefront 2 beta have shown that we are to expect a heavy use of loot boxes in both games. And what the thing about loot boxes is that they're being compared to gambling, because you're basically paying for something that you are unaware of what the outcome will be. And even though it is something that you can that you get, like you always get something, it's not that you're going to get empty air. The question is it's still enough to not consider it gambling? And the problem here is that the ESRB has actually commented on this, and they say they don't consider it gambling. And that is very problematic.
Yep, it really is, because although not by traditional definition gambling, it most definitely is a form of gambling. It is it's essentially made to target vulnerable people. And the fact, I wouldn't mind so much if it was only in games like Shadow of War, which are slightly more mature, but the fact it's in Battlefront 2 and Forza 7, which are games that are aimed at all ages, including children, I think it's horrible that we have something in the industry that can target children.
The children part is what really concerns me, is because children already, Apple was heavily criticized for having like in-app purchases be so easily done that a child could just press a button and suddenly we heard ridiculous stories of parents having suddenly like waking up to a credit card bill of like thousands of dollars. It's so easy for children to just, be like, I'm going to buy it. And you end up having that problem. And they get addicted to gambling.
And the thing is, it's not only because I don't want to be a kind of clutching my pearls, think of the children sort of individual. But it also targets people who are easily addicted, who are adults.
Yeah.
Because the way that loot boxes and because the way that I kind of view loot boxes is in a similar way to a slot machine.
Hmm.
Because you put money in, you put real money in, not very much money, but you put a little bit of money in to maybe get something that you want out of it. Because I know with loot boxes you always get something, but the fact that there is a kind of randomization as to whether you get something you actually want means that it could be a waste of money, which would then involve you putting more money in, which is a further waste of money, and it just becomes a slippery slope like that. For the ESRB, and I'm pretty sure now both the American side and the European side of the games regulators have both said it now. For them to say it's not gambling is them ignoring a really, really fundamental issue. Yes, by traditional definition, it's not gambling, but it pretty much one and the same.
More or less, yeah. And the thing is also that I'm not liking the comparisons they're making to things like Magic the Gathering booster packs. And Total Biscuit, who threw his hat into this ring as well as Jim Sterling, but Total Biscuit specifically on this thing about Magic the Gathering, he said when you're buying Magic the Gathering booster packs, you're getting something physical that you can sell, you can trade, you can do whatever you want with him. We're talking about digital goods. You can't make this comparison, and I agree with that. And I mean, okay, for example, look at Hearthstone. Hearthstone is very much akin to Magic the Gathering, but it's still digital. So what they do for the fact that, to replace the fact that you can't trade, is that you could just convert the cards you don't want into dust. But dust is a currency that you can only use in the particular game. You can't use it like real money in other games, not even in other Blizzard games. You just use it for Hearthstone and for the specific purpose of crafting cards. You can't buy other boosters with it or anything. It's a very limited currency. So here's the question. Is it of same value? No, it's not valuable at all. It's greatly diminished from this fact.
Yeah, I mean, and the regulators have to look at this. I mean, if they don't take a stand, who will? Will the gambling authority?
That is a very interesting question right over there. Now, EA has also commented about Battlefront 2 because Battlefront has been getting a lot of hate for this, for loot boxes, because particularly, and again, according to Total Biscuit, who played the beta, he said that the thing about the loot boxes Battlefront 2 is that they're not just cosmetic. They buy you power. You could actually get a card for Boba Fett that gives him 100% immunity when he's doing his rocket barrage ability. And that's pay to win. That is effectively pay to win, which makes it way above what Overwatch does, where the loot boxes are just cosmetic. Now, EA has said we don't have the full picture because the beta doesn't have all the mechanics, and they say that your strongest loot comes from playing the game, and that you can't really equip any star card you want at any rank. You have to rank up in order to use particular star cards and this and that. I still don't see how that helps. Like, okay,
no,
it's
that doesn't.
Okay-ish, but I still don't see how it helps at all in any way. You're still buying power.
Precisely. And that's where we knew that's where the intelligent ones of us, the ones that are forward thinking, but that's where we knew this was going. We knew that loot boxes were heading towards a pay to win economy.
And that is the problem, is that we're moving into this direction and we seem to be accepting it. I mean, us, like, a lot of us gamers who speak about this, we're obviously not accepting it, but there's a huge market out there that have voted with their wallets on this, and it's very, very disturbing.
And even worse, they're voting with their words. The defense that people have jumped, like, a lot of people have jumped to the defense of this.
I'm astounded, to say the least. And
yeah,
I mean, the good news is that there are some organizations out there who are trying to take a stand. We recently had a chat, you and I, with Open Critic about this a little bit. They wanted to start adding they're looking into ways to make it so that you can review a game's business model, which I find very, very interesting. And hopefully it's something that becomes a thing in the future.
Yeah, I like that as an idea. And then, as well as that, IGN have spoken out about it. Kotaku have spoken out about it. I mean, I know that Kotaku spoke out because Laura Kate Dale is the one of the managers of the UK side of things. I can't remember what her exact position is. I apologise, Laura. But she has an issue with it too. And as you say, Total Biscuit, Jim Sterling, they both vehemently are against it. The games editor for The Mirror has spoken out about it. They are gambling. The ESRB should do something about this to protect the players and to stop developers being able to do this as easily as this. Because if because I still blame Blizzard for this. I know other games have had loot boxes before Overwatch, but Overwatch has popularized them because it showed that a mainstream game can have loot boxes. I don't forgive Overwatch for having loot boxes. I don't care about it's only cosmetic argument. I don't care. It still has loot boxes. It still has a form of gambling. And not to mention its community is utterly toxic anyway. So I'm not going to listen to the defenses of the player base of this because it's a very toxic player base. And I tend not to listen to liars. So something needs to be done.
It absolutely something needs to be done. And we need to support games that don't follow this practice. I mean, again, I'm going to throw this out there. Buy Titanfall 2. It's always on sale. You're going to see that business model is incredible. Anything gameplay related is free, just like Battlefront 2. But if you want something cosmetic, you can buy it with real money, no loot boxes whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to play Titanfall 2 because I want to support games that aren't going with this business model.
And that's where that open critic thing that they're doing would actually benefit other companies as well, like Respawn, who has been trying to get their game to be on the map there, which deserves to be.
Yeah.
And I just like this. I feel like we are coming to a point where at some point everybody's gonna have loot boxes in their games, and that's not something I want to see in my video games. And it's bad enough already that it's in multiplayer games. It's creeping into single-player games. Come on, guys. It's getting ridiculous. I know that games are expensive to make these days. There's got to be another solution out there.
No, the thing is, I need to direct you to a video. It's a Jim Sterling video. I will link you to it about how games these days are not costing more.
Okay. I'll put that in the description as well.
Yeah, I will send it to you so you can put it in the description. He makes a very good point about how it's not that games are more expensive to make, it's that the business practices have forced more cost. So another video which I don't think I'll be able to find, but it's another Jimquisition in which he says that games that were very popular and sold quite a lot of units were failures because of the poor business model in creating the game. So I think it's Rise of the Tomb Raider. It sold several million, but it was still considered a failure by Square Enix because they had put too much money into it. So it's a poor business practice in the creation of the game, not that games are more expensive to make. Because all you need to do is look at games like Salt and Sanctuary or Hollow Knight or PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. All of those very popular games, all critical darlings of some description or another, didn't cost that much to make. Why is that? Because of good business practices by the developers.
And this is the takeaway I would hope our audience can take out of this, is that when we're thinking about when you're thinking about something, when you're looking into a discussion, there is a lot of aspects to it. And this is where our critical thinking plays a very, very big role. Look into it. I mean, I didn't know about this video, and we're linking to it. We're going to link it to you right here in the description. Check it out. Get all the information you can, because just because the ESRB or EA come out and say something doesn't mean that there's not an agenda behind it. Look into things. Check what's going on. Sure, we've got an agenda here talking about this too. We don't want loot boxes to exist because we think it's bad practice. You need to make a judgment for yourself and need to understand what kind of industry you want here on out. That is the big takeaway here. What is the industry? What is it that the industry that we want in the future? And this is the breaking point. We are at it right now, and people need to understand this.
I mean, the key point here, I mean, firstly, to respond to what you just said, also to our audience as well, this is speaking directly to you. Don't necessarily listen to us. Go out there, find out for yourself. We're giving you one set of information here that we have gleaned by researching around, but there is obviously another side to this. So look into everything and come up with your own decision. The only reason we're here, we're so adamantly against loot boxes, is because of the precedent it sets. But also on that level, and speaking as me personally, because I see games in a slightly different way, I think, than Akibana does. The games industry needs to be held to the same standards as other entertainment industries, because for games to be taken seriously and for games to become a true cultural art form, a true cultural artifact that can be looked back on in the future, like classic films are, like music is, it needs to be held to the same standards. And the fact that it isn't means that it never will be. So we need to take a stand now, because gambling's been eradicated in other forms of entertainment. Anything that promotes gambling or is seeming to be promoted gambling on television, for instance, has to come with disclaimers that that's what it's doing. Has to, by law.
Very well said.
Games need to be held to the same standard. Otherwise, games aren't a cultural artifact, because they aren't held to any sort of societal standards. And yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. I totally support what you just said. And I'm just going to leave our audience with one more thing, is that this comes from a discussion in the comments section on a Kotaku article that I read. I'm sorry to the author. I don't remember what your name is. I remember the title, but I just read it this morning in a hurry. Basically, the thing is that some people have been defending loot boxes by saying, like, oh, we need to, the good thing for us is that we get cheaper games because other people are willing to pay a lot of money for loot boxes. The response of the author was, and I love it very much, because she says, if the price of a game is going to be in question here, then maybe games in the end aren't so great. Yeah. Meaning that basically, if we're not willing to pay the money that we need to for a game, what is the point of playing games in the end? Do we really appreciate them in the end as an art form? Do they deserve? Do we put value into them? That is the big question here.
Yep. I literally couldn't agree more with that. And that does sound like something Laura Kate Dale would say. So I'm going to look into that article, because I'm pretty sure that sounds like her.
Right.
She's very well written. She has a lot of very good viewpoints on the games industry. I couldn't recommend reading her stuff more. And also she has some frivolous stuff as well.
Awesome. And because Rue and I are really, really concerned about this issue, I'm going to include all the links to all of this stuff in the description below, just to mention it one more time here on YouTube. Check them out, guys. Inform yourselves. Don't listen to us. Listen to your own personal research, but be informed. That is the most important thing you need to do right now. Now let's go, because I'm boiling inside right now. So let's move on to something really huge, which really made my day today.
And also, speaking of excitement and speaking of boiling over, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle has a new trailer, and it has a lot of interesting stuff in it. Firstly, I'm gonna admit I don't know Ruby, so I don't know who Weiss is.
No, me neither.
The gameplay looks interesting though. She looks like she can stop time momentarily.
Something like that, yeah.
In the gameplay. I will watch the trailer again, but it looks like she can stop time, which is an interesting mechanic. But Hazama and Rachel Alucard from BlazBlue are both confirmed as characters in Cross Tag Battle. They both look like their playstyles have been subtly altered to be in the game by the looks of things, which is good. They needed to be, because those two characters, I had a feeling they'd be in it, because Rachel is a legacy character who's been in it for ages, and Hazama is essentially one of the key villains. But I'm glad they've changed their style a little bit, because they wouldn't have really fit with the mechanics that they were trying to put into Cross Tag Battle. And then there came a very, very interesting little tidbit, just a little logo at the end of the trailer that has got both me and Akibana incredibly excited. It's confirmed for Switch.
Yay! Yay! Arxis game on Switch. Finally, we know the lowdown. I'm so happy for this. So super happy. Now I need to mod my stick. because now it needs to be able to play on Switch.
Well, I play Anime Fighters on pad, so I'm set.
I don't know, maybe I should get used to playing it on pad, which might mean I need to get a pro controller for my Switch then.
I can actually direct you. There's I ended up getting a wired pad for Switch.
The Hori.
That's not a pro controller. No, not the Hori one either. It's I think it's called by Grade A, I think is the name of the company. They're quite cheap. They're £30. They don't have the motion in them, but otherwise they are perfectly functionable control pads. So
I'm fine with that.
If you want a decent wired, a fairly decent wired pad, that might be a good call for you.
Sweet.
But yeah, this cross tag battle. The more I hear about this game, the more excited it makes me.
It's incredibly exciting because I'm also really interested in the things they're doing with the controls. Apparently, you can't. Not all moves in the game, like not all normals can be crouch normals in the same way. Like apparently A, you need to hold down back. For B, you need to hold down, and for C, you need to hold down forward in order to get a crouching normal out of those. It's very weird, but very exciting at the same time.
It just looks, and not to mention, it looks mechanically fantastic. The switching seems to be almost instantaneous. And also the combos look quite easy to string. It might be a fantastic entry point game for people that are interested in BlazBlue but feel like it would kind of swamp them.
I think it probably will include an auto combo system. I think that has been kind of confirmed. I think like you can auto combo, so newer players might have like an easier time with this game. Also, everybody has a DP apparently, which is executed by just hitting 2 buttons. Which is also very interesting.
And wasn't there everyone has an overhead by hitting the heavy?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So universal mechanics, which is great, and I always thought that was a very big thing that they added to Street Fighter 3 back in the day, where you just hit 2 buttons and everybody has a universal overhead, which I thought was always very interesting, even though it wasn't particularly useful in the specific game.
Parry, parry, parry,
Yeah.
parry, parry, parry.
Parry negated everything that they did with that game. But anyway, Cross Tag Battle is sounding incredible, and it looks great in motion. I'm also digging the tag mechanics like you mentioned, but the inclusion of Hazama just makes the story very interesting. Now, what is the direction they're going with here? We can speculate.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they've said that this is worlds mashing together. So to be fair, they don't need a story. They could make the story as nuts as they wanted, really.
Which I hope they do, and I hope they do it much better than MVCI did, because
I've got thoughts on MVCI, as you know.
We're not gonna dive into that. No, we can't do that. We're already at the 1 hour 10-minute mark almost.
Wow, ouch. I mean, the last thing I will say, I do want to say about Cross Tag Battle is, I love the character art. Like in the trailer for the new character, well, the new characters coming, Hazama and Rachel. The new character art for Hazama and Rachel looks incredible.
It looks great.
And I love all the character art so far. I mean, Ragnar and Jin and Yosuke and Lin and Hyde, they all look great.
And they fit together. That's the thing about crossover games, is that in the past they just looked weird and clunky because they just chucked the sprites in there. And they kind of look like a Mugen game. But here they've actually worked so that the characters all look like they fit in the same game. It's so amazing what they've done, and I love it because this means that 2D sprites are not dead yet.
And they're definitely coming back with a vengeance, aren't they?
Yeah. It is expensive to produce, but God do they look gorgeous, and God do they just need to making these, because I just love I'm a sucker for hand-drawn sprites, seriously.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Right, and that's going to be this week's weekly gaming blast for you. So if you want more weekly gaming blast, if you want to know what Rue and I are doing, you can follow us on the Twitters right below over here. And yeah, Rue, what do you got to share for us this week?
Oh, this week I've literally, as this has been recorded, I've had a new video go up on YouTube, episode 10 of Resident Evil. I've got another couple of highlight reels coming up in the next couple of days. Also, on Wednesday evening on Nintendo Scene at 7 p.m. will be my Fire Emblem Warriors review.
Yay. Can't wait for that. I'm really excited to read that because I'm really excited for this game.
It is very good. I couldn't recommend it more.
Might be the first Warriors game I sink my teeth into.
And what are you doing? Do we have more Dark Souls incoming?
Yeah, I know. I haven't released a Dark Souls in a bit, but yeah, I did record an episode while I was in Greece, but I wasn't entirely happy with it. I wasn't sure what to do with it. It's still, even if I wanted to make a don't watch this, it still didn't feel quite there. But anyway, I'm gonna get back to the regular Dark Souls schedule as I have before, and I also am starting, like I said, a new series where I'm basically gonna suck at popular games, and I'm starting off with Fortnite Battle Royale, which by the time you watch this video has already been out. So yeah, there you have it.
I am looking forward to that.
Yep. Well, it's something new for me. It's a new direction for me. So I'm yeah, I'll see what's going on with that. We'll see. I'm planning on playing more games that I suck at, and I just want everybody to see that I embrace my suckage. So yeah. So anyway, that's going to be it from us. If you want more from Rue the Gamer, you can just go to ruethegamer.com and get all the RTG goodness right over there with his reviews, videos, and links to everything else that he does. For my stuff, as usual, you come to my YouTube channel where you're watching this right now, or you can also follow me on Twitter. You can go to Facebook at facebook.com/AkibanaZero to get more gaming content. And yeah, that's going to be it. We hope you're going to have a lovely week gaming, and we'll catch you around.
See you soon.